Good afternoon or good day, depending on which part of the world or time zone you are. Welcome to the third in the series of seminars, now webinar to celebrate Nigeria's National Day anniversary, the 61st this year. I am Olasoju, Executive Director of the Shoboyejo Turning Point Charity Foundation. In collaboration with the Association of Nigerians in Lethbridge and the Southern Alberta Ethnic Association, you are welcome to this seminar. For some, there may not be information or awareness of the activities of the Shoboyejo Foundation. Our mission is simple: to promote and work on educational development and community development. To this end, with the grace of God and the support of people from especially Lethbridge churches and in different parts of the world, we have support. Even in Nigeria, we have completed the reconstruction of a school, the Ogun School in Ifo local government of Ogun State, Nigeria. 3 classrooms, a computer laboratory, toilet building, all with ceramic flooring and aluminum roofing. We have also done 2 seminars in the past. One on immigration and global migration from history to now and going to the future. We also held a seminar in 2019 on the topic of development and democracy. Borrowed from the developed countries, will the model work in developing countries? So this is the third one. We didn't have one last year due to COVID, and we hope you will enjoy it. And for the future, our project is a women and youth center to promote after-school activities instead of kids running into trouble, running around the village and having conflicts with their parents. We are dreaming of a youth and women center where women too can acquire skills in literacy, crafts, and work with the kids on painting, drawing, sculpting, weaving, braiding, fashion designing, haircuts, crafts and welding, small crafts items, and woodwork. And because of the connection of Ogun town to the Adubi War in the 20s, about a century ago, whereby when the war theater was very hot and the conflict was very devastating, the people that escaped from that conflict found refuge in Ogun town. And from our knowledge, based on our knowledge and available information to us, Adubi, the freedom fighter who led the struggle, is remembered in books and stories about the war, Adubi War, but he has not been memorialized. There's no cenotaph to his memory and things like that. So we have space in the lot after developing the Women and Youth Center to have Adubi Heroes Museum built in the place. We also have plans for internet radio where children can express themselves and people can interact on the internet, radio, and learn and teach, and do have all kind of information, local and so forth, about commodities, market days, and local sports and things like that. That is our dream for the future. And even now, before we formally launch the project, we have, contributions already coming in. So this is an opportunity for partnership and for support. Thank you and welcome to the third in the series of our webinars and seminars. And the title is Fake News, Disinformation, Belief Systems, and Truth. Perspectives on navigating a polarized world for peace, development, and happiness. We will have fun today because we are very great speakers. Thank you and welcome.
So I'm going to go on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Oladipo Olasoju. Oladipo Olasoju was born and bred in Nigeria. He is a proud product of the Baptist Boys High School, Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria. It is noteworthy to mention that the Baptist Boys High School happened to be the incubator of a number of prominent Nigerian leaders, namely the past President Olusegun Obasanjo and the late Basharu MKO Abiola. Oladipo attended Olabisi Onabanjo University in Ogun State, where he studied law. He was called into the Nigerian bar in 1990 and practiced law in Lagos until 2000, when he moved to England. He enrolled as a solicitor of England and Wales in 2004. He currently practices as a criminal defense solicitor, and he is a director at his own law firm. Oladipo was ordained as a pastor while he was in Nigeria, and he had combined this with his practice in both Nigeria and England. He is no longer pastoring, and he's still waiting on God for a new direction. Oladipo is married to Fumi, and they live in England with their two beautiful daughters. Please welcome Oladipo Olasoju. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, okay.
But we can't see you just yet. Oh, okay, we can see you.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Well, I tried to hide behind the scene. Thank you for having me this evening. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the host of this event. And I believe that this topic, as it is something that is very timely, and something that I believe is something that every one of us should embrace. Yeah, as I was introduced, my name is Oladipo, but friends call me Ola, just to make it easier to be pronounced. A couple of weeks ago, my friend sent me an image, which I will show you on my screen now. Can you see this? Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Now, it's about a WhatsApp message, which has this inscription. It said the world is finally divided into two clear groups. The vaccinated one waiting for the non-vaccinated ones to die. And then the non-vaccinated ones waiting for the vaccinated ones to die. I think there can be nothing far from the truth, the world we are in today. And the result of this is the reason why we are here today, which is discussion about the effect and the impact of fake news. What can we do to deal with these fake news? Now I have my introduction. I'm sorry, I don't have that sense of professionalism that the two previous speakers have demonstrated in having a PowerPoint presentation. But this is the little one that I can put together. I hope you bear with me. But it's going to serve the same purpose. I have here introduction. Now, before these millennium, or I would say in the first millennium, our different societies were governed by a strict set of rules. People that are older than me will agree with this. We are so much bound by our culture, our religion, social suasions or moral suasions as it is. And these are the things that bring law and order into the community. Anyone that digresses outside these set rules become an outcast. And that includes people who spread bad news or people who spread news that are untrue. There are punishment, instant punishment for them. So in that sense of community or society, we see that people are very, very conscious of whatever they do or whatever they say. So in that wise, we see a lot of social cohesion in the society. So we find a situation where people find comfort in their religion, comfort in their community, find comfort in their society. And the level of comfort they have provides them what I call level of security. But coming down to the second millennium, we find a situation where people are moving out from one continent to another. We have what we call globalization of companies, globalization of the entire society. Now, we find a situation where somebody who lives in Asia will move down to Africa and will bring with them their culture to Africa. And some people will embrace that culture. And in the course of embracing that culture, they forget about their culture. And we now have what we call a more or less a cosmopolitan society in these Western nations, even in Africa as well. Now, these are the things that are leading to the gradual erosion of what used to be our safety valves, our culture, our social beliefs, our community network. All these things were being eroded gradually as a result of this globalization. Now, moving on, we find out that we also experience the advancement of technology. And with that technology comes what I'll call the evolvement of power of the social media. Now, before the start of the millennium, I hardly heard of people talking about Facebook, people talking about YouTube, Twitter and all that. They were relatively small people that are using such a medium. I can relate with what is it called, LinkedIn at that level, because this was more or less connected with businesses. But as time progresses, we'll find people getting involved in Facebook, WhatsApp messages, setting up platforms, and all that. We're gradually, getting into our culture. Before I can knock on my neighbor's door and then say, oh, hi, I come to say hello to you. But now that is no longer possible because we now have a kind of insecurity coming in through this globalization, which I will talk on later. Now, we're looking at this topic of discussion today, and it is profound on our lives. We're talking about misinformation. We're talking about fake news. How are we if affected by these misinformation or this issue of fake news, which of course in America is called fake news. In Europe, we call it misinformation or disinformation. Now, we have these topics because they are important to us in a way that our peace, our mental health, our freedom, what we know as the core human values, all these are now being eroded by the effect of these misinformation. And unless we are involved in ensuring that these things are tackled, we'll find out that by and large, we will lose what I will come down later to show us that are the core values of our being as humans. I'll take us to the background. I said in the first millennium, we saw the emergence of powerful kingdoms and nations that dominated the world through the use of force. Now, through the power of their military might, their kingdoms or country prospered economically. Now, what that means is that in those years, we have kingdoms becoming powerful militarily. And as a result of their might, they are able to conquer other nations. And that expands their territory and also their kingdoms and their economies. Now, these gave a sense of prosperity and security to the citizens. And those that are outside those kingdoms or the conquered states become slaves to them. And they become impoverished because everything belonging to them are now being taken away into these bigger powers. Now, these were the dominant forces in the first millennium. We have nations that have evolved like Germany. We have France during the time of Napoleon. We have England, we have the United Kingdom. All these were emerging states that were able to dominate, in fact, the whole world. Today, we are still having the effect of these, what we call colonization in Africa. Now, coming down into the, towards the tail end of the first millennium, we have just two superpowers then, Russia or USSR and United States of America. Today, in the second millennium, that is no longer the case. We now have other countries that are now emerging. We have North Korea. Why? Because they have nuclear power. We have countries like Pakistan, they are nuclear power. We have countries like India, they are nuclear powers. The so-called superpowers can't just wake up in a day and say they want to attack these nations because they now have nuclear weapons as well. So it's more or less a deterrent. But one thing that I find curious is that in the second millennium, instead of us having just the superpowers or the so-called nuclear powers, we now have companies, we now have individuals who are now influencers, who are now so big that they control the affairs of nations. And the question is, how do they do this? I can understand people with nuclear power, people with military might, they can control nations through force. But multinational companies, individuals, they don't have this military might. They don't have this power, yet they control and influence other countries. They influence leaders. How do they go about this? These are the things that I will touch on now. In the case of countries with military might, because they have that power, they instill fear into the minds of people. So they control people through fear, right? Companies, they don't have that power, yet they control countries, they control nations, they control people. How do they do this? How do they achieve that? Now, this brings us to another issue, which is even though the countries that are superpower, they control these nations through fear, companies control people and nations through what they call news, information, advertisement, propaganda. Now, remember I said that human beings, we have our core values, which is something that we hold on to very, very strongly. And anything that affects this core values, we tend to fight them. So there's this instinct of survival in every human being. Anything that affects our security, anything that affects our core values, we fight them. How do we do this? We do this by either bringing out something that will counter the attack in form of information. We are seeing that in the case of North Korea and United States in recent times, where the military, the leaders in North Korea will display their military might just to make sure that people see that, look, if you touch us, this is something that we can use to fight back. And in that process, America has not been able to even think of attacking North Korea. Otherwise, in the past, that would have happened. Now, we see this as a way of a propaganda, as a way of preserving your culture, preserving your nation, preserving what you believe to be your identity as a nation. What about individuals? When a company comes to you and say that you look more beautiful if you use this product, and they show you a model who uses the product, and you can see the beauty in that model. Unknown to you, this is a model. This is not somebody that actually is like you. And by that information getting into your head, gradually you begin to believe that that is true. And by doing that, you are accepting that what you are doing is not authentic. What they are bringing to you is authentic. And that is where misinformation comes in. Now, I define misinformation as false or inaccurate information, especially that which is deliberately intended to deceive. False or inaccurate information, especially that which is deliberately intended to deceive. Now, in my previous discussion, I mentioned how countries control countries for a benefit through fear, and I'll talk about how companies, control people or nations through the same mechanism, which is propaganda or disinformation. Now, all these things are intended to create some form of benefit, as the last speaker has said. When you release information, that information has an effect, because anything that goes into the mind, onto your brain, stays. And it has the effect of either changing you or making you to resist. In other words, if I say that, look, I have a gun, I'm going to shoot you, what comes into your head is safety. What do I do to preserve my safety? You then find out that I don't have a gun. What do? You won't think of fighting me, you will think of running. And that is the effect of fake news. When they come with an information, how do we know whether this is fake or whether this is true? The only way we can know is if we understand the issue itself. For instance, I don't know much about American politics, but in 2020, I tend to follow the American politics as a result of what was going on there, because I know that whatever happens to America or whoever becomes the president will impact on the rest of the world. So because of that, I was following that news. And to an extent, I became so vast in American politics. Now, when I hear anything contrary to what I know is going on there, I fast check it. I check whether it is true. Many of us today, we don't do that. And that is why we don't have that a level of success in dealing with fake news. Whenever this news come, we take them on board and then we just run with it. There's no time. We say, let me check, hang on. Okay, this thing is coming, let me check. Because what fake news does is that it gives you a lot of things that you believe helps to secure your position. Like if you go to, what is it called? YouTube today, you see a lot of things about the vaccine. I've taken the 2 doses of the vaccine and I know that it is good. But somebody will tell you that I won't take it because I know that it is not good. Why is this? What is the benefit of you saying that? Unless there's something you are gaining from it, you won't be promoting that information. So we have people that are doing this because there is a benefit for them, either financial benefit, either self-preservation. There is a benefit. So when we look at all these things that are causing or that are that are spreading out this fake news, they have a benefit. Now I'll come to the issue of how do we deal with this. The second speaker mentioned something about legislation. It is very difficult for you to legislate against fake news. The reason is that there's, like in the UK, there's something we call freedom of speech. Now, that is so much entrenched in what we call the Human Rights Act. You cannot stifle freedom of speech, but where it is affecting national security or it is undermining national confidence, you can step in. That is when the law can step in. Otherwise, you can't. But how do we deal with it as individuals? The only way we can deal with it is if we understand our core values. As a religious person, I believe more in the Bible as my standard. And what the Bible says about me is that it said, my people perish for lack of understanding, lack of knowledge. Now, without people having that information, they will become slaves of misinformation. And that is what we're experiencing today. I believe that when it comes to question and answer, I might be able to do more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time. So I am wondering if we have a couple questions from the chat forum.
Yes, we do have a question here, and I'll take it quickly. It's from Chidi. It says, globalization in its various strands affect belief systems in cultures and subcultures. In the increasing emergence of information and communication technologies, how do different communities regulate or resist the forces that spawns off amidst these changes in the form of
Okay, if I understand that question very well, if you look at the bottom of this screen, which is my slide, you see remedies. I have accountability. Now, if you look at some of these or most of these people that are bringing out this false news or that are the media for propagating these false news, they have no accountability. I think in recent times, the Congress was trying to bring Facebook to account in the event of all these things that are going on Facebook. Accountability. When we have accountability, which we used to have in our community before this globalization, if you do wrong, or like we say in a criminal parlance, if you do the crime, you do the time. Now, nobody is held accountable. People are in American Congress today spreading lies. Nobody's holding them accountable. In the world today, unfortunately, we lost one of our MPs yesterday through stabbing. He was trying to hold a surgery. Somebody walked to him, pretending as if he was part of the surgery, and just stabbed him. Now, the minimum he will get is a life sentence. Now, a life is lost. A family has lost life. They've lost human beings. They have lost their father, they have lost uncle and all that. He can be brought back to life and is an MP for over 30 years, over that constituency. Now, that has ended because of what? False information. Nobody's held accountable. Somebody misled the young man that committed the crime, but that person is not being held accountable. So you will see this happening over and over. That's what I can say. We can't legislate against fake news, strongly, and fact checking is also a means of doing that. But many of us are lazy, to do our research. When we get some news, we just run with it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate your time and your expertise.